The antagonism of the major Dasein blocks, which constituted the anciently named Europe, the, the Teutonic bloc, which mainly means Scandinavians, Germans, English, the Romanic bloc, which means French speakers in various countries, and the French, Spanish, Italians, these descendants of the Latini, and other groups. The Slavic, which includes several branches, including the ones involved in the major antagonism now, and internecine special military operations. One can put a plural on that. Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. And then sometimes called Eastern Slavic peoples. And then some other groups of Slavs, including Czechs and Slovaks, for instance, and other people in nearby regions. The Teutonic people, we can say in something like a reversal of Zizek's claim about the Protestants, whom he attributes a love of God and hate of Satan, and the Catholics, to whom he says hate God and love Satan or sin, would say it's the Protestants who tend to hate God in the form of their kind of liberalism, where let's just like government stand in for the word God there. And to love Satan in the sense that there's a constant cynicism amongst Protestants in the Protestant countries, and it often takes the form of praising oneself for pointing out how wicked human beings are, how corrupt they are, and so forth. That's a kind of reveling in or loving the banquet of Satan, which they see as the whole world, and especially including this region of God overrun by Satan, which is called government. So Zizek is totally wrong about his analysis of the Protestants, and likewise absolutely wrong about his analysis of the Catholics. The Catholics, to the side which Zizek seems to affiliate himself in an interesting way, so far as there's Zizek has both Teutonic and Romanic leanings. He likes both the French and the English. The Catholic, in this sense, the Catholic in this sense love God and hate Satan, and have a passionate desire to kill Satan, in this sense that we see it in France, for instance. The removal of Catholicism corresponded as the so-called dogmatists, as the bad people, the bad God, did not mean the hate of God, but rather the desire to install a new and higher God, which was considered this Enlightenment God, which then created a new dogma, which, if one reads Jacques Derrida, for instance, who was at the École Normale Superior and who knows what was going on in there, and who remarked on the priest-like caste of the professors who chose their own disciples and to pass that on for numerous generations since the founding of this modern University of Paris system after the French Revolution. So that the new God was installed, and these Catholic countries, which collapsed and became secular countries, really didn't reinstall the new God. Whereas you see and really do ferociously try to, in a, let's say, semi-authoritarian manner, to curtail the devil. Martin Luther, by the way, was a Catholic. So we had this Malthankis, or whatever the man's name is, that was the theologian who was a friend of Luther, who really wrote the theology that gets called Lutheranism, although Luther wrote a lot of things himself. So there's some complexity in there. But we have an issue of a civilization bloc, which in a way is praising a God and living in a Dasein with a mission, and then another one which is heavily heavily satanic, the American and the German and the English, so that there's a complexity there in this confusion with relation to these antagonists in the East, the antagonist to the NATO bloc, which has this alliance across the Romanic and the Teutonic Dasein, especially as it falls into this way of informational market and cybernetic, as it increasingly seems to be AI controlled existence of those Dasein, which includes myself as a Californian. To some how does one say, the Dasein of the Dasein is always something one responds to, but in some way it's possible sometime a Dasein can break out of history, I suppose, and not respond to the Dasein of their, can make a little leap, can leap, as it were. Leaping in the simple sense would be like Leo Strauss when he wonders whether he still understood how a European thought, because of course he had become an American, a naturalized citizen, and in some way, therefore, the other way to say that is to turn, some way turned, become an American, without making the leap, but I guess gradually turned. So leap or turn, but in any case, this is something that where one no longer would feel in one's conscience this need to respond to the call of that Dasein. So that's not impossible, but one never knows in a certain sense how so far one has accomplished that, because it's difficult to get a look at oneself. It's too close. So that's a conceptualization contra Zizek of the North Atlantic versus the Eastern civilization blocks.